The topic we are going to deal with right now is final keyword, and just like implements or extends, we are using this final keyword for a specific application. Now, this final keyword, it can be applied to a variable, it can be applied to a method, or it can be applied to a class. Now, each of this application will lead to different functions, and if a final variable is added, if a variable is made final, it will create constant variables which cannot be changed. Now, what eventually will happen is we'll show or demonstrate programs, and when we look into the programs, we'll see the effect of adding a final keyword and the effect of the program without it. So the program says such that these words cannot be replaced or edited, and hence most of the programs with final keyword would result in an error. So understand the purpose of a final keyword. So when we add it to a variable, it will create a constant variable. When we add it to a method, it will prevent method overriding, and when we apply it to classes, it will prevent inheritance. So we will check this program right now. So you have a program like class bike 9, and you have a variable, a speed limit int variable, which is declared as final, and it has got a function run, which is supposed to set the speed limit to value 400, and it is supposed to display the value of the speed limit. Now you have an object being created, and this object is supposed to call this function run. So typically what would happen is if this variable is not final, it will be edited and it can be substituted with the value 400. Now if a final keyword is being added, it will definitely not be replaced and it will lead to an error. So we'll run this program and see what would be the outcomes with and without a final keyword. Okay, so as we take a look at this program, we can see that this class bike 9 is there, and you have this variable which is trying to be modified, and we'll try to run this particular program, and you can see that it leads to an error because the class is not declared as public when we execute the program. Right now it is it has replaced the value 90 with 400, and it has printed the value, which means it has worked. It's because this variable has not been declared as final. So when we add the final keyword, we try running the program, and this reads out an error like it cannot assign a value to the final variable speed limit. So I hope that point is clear regarding what would be. So we'll continue with this final keyword, and now this final keyword is applied to this method. So we'll see what happens when a final keyword is applied to a method. So you have a method class called bike, it has a method called run, which should be displaying running, and then you have a class Honda, which extends from bike, it is inheriting from bike, and it also has got a function called run where it will be displaying running safely with 100 km per hour. And we have this main function, and you have this object being created called CBR, and CBR is calling this function run. So when we apply this concept of inheritance and overriding that we had looked previously, we can see that when we have this, we remove this function a keyword final, and we have this two functions. So this is like any other normal Java program. So we'll look into the case where we in fact revise about what we had learned previously about overriding. So you have this inheritance key, you have the bike CBR new bike. Observe the class reference and observe the constructor call or method reference. So when we execute it, should be running. It should print running. Just come out over here. Now, if we create Honda here, and the method reference is also to Honda, and the class is also Honda. When we execute it, it will be displaying running safely with 100 km/h. If we give it as Honda and then bike, it should lead to an error. It will not get executed, so that doesn't work. And then we try the other way around, which is bike and Honda. So you can see that this method reference points to Honda, but the class reference is to bike. And when this object is calling the function run, it will run the function of this derived class or Honda. So when we execute it, we're displaying running safely with 100 km/h. So which means this method run has been overridden by this run of the derived class. So we have seen that, and when we add a keyword final to this base class method, basically it shows up an error that this run in Honda cannot override the run in bike. So the overridden method is final. So that is related to this point where you have a final variable. It will create constant variables which cannot be edited. When it comes to method, if the final keyword is added, it will prevent overriding. And now for the last one, which is final classes, where you're preventing inheritance. So with respect to classes, the point that we have seen over there is that when a final keyword is added to a class, it will prevent inheritance. So we'll look into this program. We have a class declared over here, which is bike, but it does not contain anything, but still it is declared. And then you have the Honda 1 class, which is inheriting from bike, which has got a run function. You have the main function, the object being created over here, and the object calling the run function. So basically, there is nothing about inheritance over here, like there is no function being accessed and all, but then there is a class created over here, and the inheritance statement is valid. And when you have a class and the extends statement is given, it means it is inheriting from class bike. Now we'll look into the program and see what would be the difference when we apply the final keyword and otherwise. So let's look into the case where there is no final keyword and you have a class bike. This should run properly. It should execute the program, see it as displayed running safely with 100 km/h. That means the object created here has called the run function and it is able to run. And when it has final keyword, it shows an error, that is, it cannot inherit from a class final bike, which is the class bike, which is declared as final. So the inheritance is validated over here with this statement, but with the final keyword, that inheritance is invalid. So what we have looked at right now is the final keyword, and basically we have looked into 3 cases of the final keyword: when we apply to variables, when we apply to methods, and when we apply to classes. So the after effect is, if it is applied to variable, it will create constant variables which cannot be modified. If we apply to methods, it will prevent overriding, and if it is applied to classes, it will prevent inheritance.